at the moment when we planned that it was time for us to leave Cameroon, even the country of Cameroon started being like threatening. We had really, yeah, we had two robbery incidences in a space of 2 weeks, something that has never happened to us. Like so when I saw people that were rejected and I read through their profiles, I'm like, this person is good. Why were they rejected? Then who am I? What what chances do I have? So I picked up my phone, checked my email, started scrolling, and the email, the title of the email is always very brief. It was just Home Atlas. He does not even write Tech Nation or anything. He just wrote Home Atlas. So I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's why, like, just do just make impact at the end of the day. Maybe one day it pays off in some way, but even if it doesn't, because the mindset that you used to make that impact was just because you want to give back. It was not for any, selfish reasons. You'll be fine.
Okay, so hi, Amarachi.
So
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So it's really a chance to understand your global talents visa journey, and I'm sure we'll be inspired as well by your career journey, right? Because we understand that the global talent visa, everyone has got a unique story, and it's like their career story, their journey. So maybe we would like to start by really hearing about your background, right? So up to the time you apply for the global talent visa, what's that background like? Who's Amarachi?
thank you. That's actually a very good place to start. I mean, there is no discussion on global talent visa that shouldn't cover who the applicant is, because most of the things we have to use for the application are like a collaboration between everything we've done in our tech career. In fact, they want to see all of it. So, I started out as a front-end web developer. I'm currently a community operations manager at Consensus, but I started out as a front-end web developer in 2018. So at the time of my application, it was exactly 5 years of me being in tech, right? So I started out front end. I did front end for 2 years, first as an intern. Then, like I've had such a very rich experience in tech. So I started off as an intern and then I got into the company. It was a tech hub in Aba. So I joined them. I did a lot of education stuff, kids, teaching kids how to code and also doing front end by the side. And then when I left the job in 2019, I started volunteering for a couple of organizations. So first of all, I started volunteering for Open Source Community Africa. If you've heard about it, it's like one of the largest open source communities in Africa. We host the Open Source Festival, right, in Lagos. So I was volunteering for them. And then after the success of the first event, I started volunteering for She Could Africa as a community manager. So my She Could Africa experience was the first time that I was called a community manager, because I've been doing community stuff even while in the hub in Aba. I was, volunteering for most of the tech events that we had, but I never knew there was a career path called community management or even developer relations as it is. But after volunteering for She Could Africa, having been given the job description, I now started doing it. I was literally learning on the job, and thankfully the founder at that is was a DevRel at Google at that time, so it was also like working with a more experienced manager. And when I did that for 1 year plus or so, and then I started to feel like this could be a career path for me. I don't think I want to do front end anymore. I should concentrate on being a community manager. So that's how my job hunt started, around community management niche. So it was what I did most of late 2020, getting into 2021. And by 2021, I got my first role as a community manager at a US company. And they say the rest is history, because after that, I, started to thrive in my career. And since then, I've worked for about four international organizations in that same capacity, even down to my latest role, which is operations manager with Consensus, right? So in between my career, it's not like it's just as smooth as all of that. There have been like times when I even did UI UX at some point, because I was like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. Especially during my job hunting phase, I was like, this community management, like there's no job inside though. let me go and do something else. So yeah, but yeah, I at some point in 2020, because I'm also like a very big advocate of giving back to the community, because as you can see, many of the things I've been learning, even up to data, things I learned from the community. So most of the time I write articles, I speak at events. So all of these things, like I did them even when they weren't paying and all of that. So while I was applying, getting rejections, I wasn't just like, just waiting. So I wrote articles, several technical articles, even for Free Code Camp, got featured in a lot of publications as a result. And yeah, so currently Amarachi is just a community operations manager, but yeah, there has been a lot to get here.
Come a long way.
Yeah, I've come a long way.
I mean, that's one key thing you mentioned that struck me was you talked about you started in this space, you didn't know that there was even a role like developer relations community manager. So it's
Yeah,
you discovered this role existed. And that's the thing about tech. You can discover something that it's not the conventional kind of role that we know in tech and even in other career paths. So that's very, very inspiring.
Mm. Yeah, very inspiring. And another thing too is some persons will say that they did not really know about the global talent visa, that their profile will eventually, what they have been doing or they are doing currently would have, made them eligible for it until they, stumbled on the information, applied, and now got the visa. So was
exactly.
that your own case? What actually motivated you to apply and pursue the visa?
Okay. Sometimes I don't usually know how to get into this, but in 2022, because we were based in Cameroon, I don't know if you saw that anywhere in my profile. So I moved here from Cameroon, but we are Nigerians. So Cameroon was like a good place for us, like for a long time. And that was why leaving Cameroon was not just as simple as saying, okay, we want to leave and we just carry our bags and go. Like there wasn't any external pressure to leave, or maybe, oh, things are not working out the way we want or something like that. So we had to take that deliberate effort to wait on it. So we are Christians, so most of the things we do, like yeah, so we had to pray about it for a long time. So earlier this year, that was January, because by then we were like, it looks like we don't even know, we weren't sure whether we were to go or not. But earlier this year, we just got that inspiration that it's actually time for us to take a step into like doing something to leave the country. And I've already known about global talent visa for about a year or two, but I had never looked into it. Like I had never cared about it. Like I didn't even care. At that time, UK was also not like a country I even like envisioned to be in. Like I wasn't really looking into countries to migrate to. But then when I looked at the global talent visa earlier this year, yeah, so that was January this year was the first time I looked into the global talent visa, the application process. So initially my husband wanted to do the application because he's in academia. So we wanted to see if he would go through the academia route. But at the same time, I was also looking at the digital technology category as well. So when we compared our strengths on both on the both sides of the application, we figured I think if we were to do the digital technology category, I would be able to get my evidences. Like I think I stood more chances at like doing it without a lot of hassle, right? So we said, okay, I'm going to do the attempt first, right? Just to see how it works. But sometimes things start with, okay, I'm just going to give it an attempt. And then you step in and you're like, I must do this stuff. I don't know if you've gotten to that. Like initially it was like play, but then when you get into it, that part of you that knows that you never want no for an answer, even though you're just attempting this stuff, you don't still want to get rejected, right? It happened to me in school as well. When I came into the university, I was like, I don't care whether I make first class or not. I just want to ace all my courses and come out. And when I got to final year, when I had a lot of friends telling me you can make first class, your GP is already so solid. I was not like, no, 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 no. So that was also how it happened with the visa. Initially, it was just I'm going to attempt this stuff. But then when I started to gather the evidences, when I started to, put my documents together, start reaching out to people to recommend me, I just realized that I can't mess this up. Like it's no longer just an attempt for me. This is real life. And just as nature, or will I say as God would have it, at the moment when we planned that it was time for us to leave Cameroon, even the country of Cameroon started being like threatening. We had really, yeah, we had two robbery incidences in a space of 2 weeks, something that has never happened to us. Like, so everything was not like, I told you that for a long time, Cameroon was now that place we wanted to live. Like it was something, it was the reason we had to think about it and deliberate about it. Today we are like, God, please, like, tell us something. Are we ready to go? But the moment that stuff happened, we were having robberies, there's all my energy. I had to pour it into the application because I am not staying one more moment in this country. They want to rob us there, you understand? So yeah, so that was the motivation, was basically that we felt like it was time because we had prayed on it for a long time. We felt like we needed to be clear on what our next trajectory in life was going to look like, whether we were to continue in Cameroon or to look for another country. And when we got the clarity we needed that we were to move, the global talent visa felt like the next step. Like we didn't even think too much about it. Like, yeah, just looking at it, feeling like, oh, we have what it takes to do this, and we just went for it.
Wow, wow, powerful. This is very interesting. Like one thing that was catchy about what you just told us now is the part where you said you had not known about the GTV, and okay, at some point you said you had known about it, but you
Yeah,
never
I known about it for a year, but I had never read
looked
about
into it.
it. I didn't.
So somebody might be listening now and don't know that if you look into it, you can also get it. So it's very
Yeah,
important to
yeah,
look
yeah.
into it. Yeah.
Cool. Can you walk us through the actual GTV evidence, maybe that you submitted, what you thought was the strengths and the weaknesses of your profile, and maybe a breakdown of what you eventually submitted?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think at the end of this, like when you share this video, maybe there's also an article I wrote you can attach to this where I listed this in more like, yeah, in clearer ways. So one thing I noticed about the global talent visa is the fact that, at least from my own perspective, based on where I was applying for, I was applying as a community manager, not as a software engineer, the core technical roles. But I noticed that they do like community participation, right? They like that you have done something for the community. And that has been literally what I've been doing for the past 5 years of my career. For every single time I've worked in any company, I have never worked for a company and just focused on, okay, now I have my job, I'm getting my paycheck monthly, I don't need to do anything else, right? So even while I'm in a company, I'm still volunteering, doing a lot of community things by the side. And those things were what gave my application strength, because there were things like speaking engagements, there were things like articles that I've written or articles that have been written about me. All these things are public facing things that you have to do outside of work. In fact, it's one of the criteria there, written clearly what you have done outside of work. They want to see it. They want to see that maybe you've judged hackathons or you've organized large events. So you just have to be a community person, right? So I've seen a couple of software engineers who are not able to bring in a solid profile because they were very focused on their codes. They just wanted to code and push out their work, and people get to use it. Sometimes they scale through, but I think the software engineers that have more chances at making it actually are software engineers who did not just do coding for their jobs, but maybe also did things on the side like open source contributions. They just want to see other things that you're doing for the community, because it is those your community contributions that actually stand you out as someone who is recognized for their work, which is what Global Talent Visa is all about. They want to acknowledge tech talents that have been globally recognized for their work. And if you're just doing your work in a silo, just for your organization, then who recognizes you? If only your employer recognizes you as a global talent, then they will not recognize you as a global talent. They want people, to see the articles you've written. Like some of the articles I added were articles that I wrote for Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp is a global community with on LinkedIn alone, there are over 1 million followers on LinkedIn. On YouTube, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of subscribers from all over the world. So writing an article for such a global platform, you see, it make you a global talent, because global is worldwide. So it doesn't have to be something you're just doing within your community. And sometimes people ask, like, how do I do these global things? Like, I did all of those things from ABBA. most of them from Aba. I moved to Cameroon in 2021, and even in Cameroon is like, French speaking, had its limitations, but even there, thanks to social media, thanks to internet, you can be in any part of the world and contribute to things that are happening globally. So it's just about, just putting out that step first and starting from your local community. Then from local, you go global. And then Tech Nation will recognize you somehow that you're already a global talent. Yeah.
From local, you go global. And if, for those that might not know, Aba is actually a city in southeastern Nigeria. So,
Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean,
About to the world.
about to the world.
I mean, so what kind of challenges did you face during that process, that application process? How did you overcome them?
Yeah, so the first challenge I had was imposter syndrome. I guess it happens to everyone at some point. When I started the application process, I went to Technician forum to read about like other applications, what they've done, the people that were rejected. So when I saw people that were rejected and I read through their profiles, I'm like, this person is good. Why were they rejected? And who am I? What what chances do I have, So yeah, it was very challenging. Like on some days I doubt the whole thing. I'm like, are you sure this is what I should have done? Are you sure that I actually like qualify to apply for this stuff? Right. But eventually I think what helped me was doing this. It was not a form of like psych talk. No, there's no talk or motivational speech that could help me out in that particular situation. The only thing that helped me was continuing putting my evidences together. The more I got those evidences and started bringing them together, when I looked at my documents, I'm like, you have to be accepted, like, because yeah. So bringing my evidence, because a lot of times some of the things we do, we forget about them. That's the truth. In fact, applying for that visa taught me a lot of things, and one of them is documenting our work. So there are so many things we must have done. Even some people that feel today that they don't have the qualifications to apply probably do, but the reason they think they don't is that they've done so many things that they don't even remember, or they can't even bring evidences for. If you start bringing those evidences, I had to go through my Facebook, check old pictures. I had to even call a friend at some point. I'm like, do you have so picture? I'm looking for it. The more you bring those evidences together, you go to your drive, you start looking for feedback that your manager gave you that you stored. When you bring them together and start seeing your documents, your confidence will start improving, and you start seeing that you actually have what it takes. There were articles that I had to search and search because I don't even, I am very good at documenting, but I didn't know I would need to, bring some things. Like some things I just like, we should just stay. But I had to start bringing them. So the more I brought them together, my confidence increased. The next challenge that I faced was delays in my recommendations. Some of my recommendation letters, like the one that came from the CEO of the company I was working with. So I was actually meant to bring from my manager, but I was like, let me dare to dream. And I reached out to our CEO, and it was from my previous company. It's a US company. So when you reach out to like the CEO of, yeah. So and of course, as a CEO, his lawyer had to intervene. And when a lawyer comes into the mix, there has to be like double checks, trying to ensure that whatever recommendation they give to me is not going to maybe backfire in the future. So all of those things were, it became bureaucratic. At some points, I had already finished my evidences. I had gotten the rest of my recommendations, but that one. So at some point, I even wanted to just go ahead with the application without it. But then I had a dream where I applied without it and I got rejected. And I said, I will wait.
Hey,
Then I
wow.
will wait. So I waited. So that recommendation letter alone took almost 6 weeks to come. Yeah, but thankfully I started asking for it while I was, gathering my evidences. So after the whole process, it took like an extra 3 weeks after I had gathered all my evidences for it to come. So it was actually challenging. So the only way to mitigate that is just to be patient, because sometimes the people that are recommending you are also busy and they don't owe you. You're not entitled to their recommendation letters. So you just have to wait it out. Like send gentle reminders as often as you can, but yeah, you still have to wait it out. So these are mostly like the challenge of imposter syndrome and the challenge of, having to wait, growing that impatience that you really need to get this application out.
Wow, amazing. Really amazing. And I mean, from everything you've said so far, it seems like if I was to say what's your unique selling points, if I'll put it that way, for this application, it was your community engagement. I mean, you had a very rich and robust evidence around community engagement outside your core skill around software development. Would you
Yes,
agree with that?
yes, that was my main selling point. That was the main thing.
Amazing.
And the whole weight paid now. How did they celebrate the news? The whole moment. Everybody have their own style.
This is actually funny because I applied for the endorsements. After the application, I started asking questions like, how long does it take to get a response? Some people were saying it can take a week, some say 2 weeks, some say three, four, because it varies really. I think it depends on the volume of application they have per time. So on the Friday that made it exactly 2 weeks after our application, I remember I and my husband were in the sitting room and I was telling him, I'm so impatient. You mean I'm going to wait another weekend? Because I've been hopeful all week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I know that weekend no work. So I was like, you mean I'm going to wait out another weekend? This is so frustrating. I picked up my phone just randomly. It's not like this was around like 8 p.m. So I didn't pick up my phone to see an email or anything. So I just picked up my phone, checked my email, started scrolling, and the email, the title of the email is always very brief. It was just Home Atlas. He does not even write Tech Nation or anything. He just wrote Home Atlas. So I looked at it. I was like, what is this? I opened the email and I did not even care. Immediately I saw Global Talent somewhere inside that email. I said scrolling because I've seen the accepted email somewhere before. So I was looking at that particular paragraph. I didn't care whatever else they were writing or so I scrolled. My husband did not know what was going on. Immediately I saw that paragraph, I screamed and screamed and
Really,
I
I
can
just
feel the
remember.
excitement. I can feel it. I know.
I remember how Marilyn felt when she got hers. So she fell off. She fell down on the ground.
I'm telling you, like I screamed in fact that even the subject of that email is the most surprising. I think they even intend it to be a surprise because the title has no suggestion. So when you see the email, it's even easy. In fact, this is also important. One of my friends said she almost even missed her own email because of the way it appears. It doesn't appear like the thing you're waiting for. It just appears like a random spam email in your mailbox. Home Atlas.
Yeah, nothing like congratulations or there's nothing.
Atlas. you know, and you have to open it and then you eventually see the stuff contained. But it was very beautiful. I was so happy, like slept like a baby. And the funny thing is that they sent that email since 2 p.m. of that Friday, but I had not checked my email until 8 p.m. after complaining, I like the email was seated there and I was busy complaining and talking about how I was going to spend another weekend waiting.
It was
Yeah.
God's time to do shakara for you. God had already. He was his hand is in the he really involved in this young. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there are many things I can't like. I know this is going live, so there are so many things I can't even begin to like when I want to point to the God aspect of our application. But yeah, he did it.
Wow. Interesting.
Wow, amazing. Amazing. And now, so before GTV, after GTV Live, how has that experience been so far in the UK, both for you personally, professionally?
Yeah. So it's a lot of change. This is my second time relocating. At least the first one was to Cameroon, but it was different because my husband was already in Cameroon. So, when I got to Cameroon, it was not like learning the ropes afresh. There was a church, my husband's church, for me to go to. There was already friends that he has made. There was an apartment for me to live in. So, but moving to UK, all of us is like all of us doing this fresh journey, like for the first time. My husband, no, we didn't have any relative or friends in the city where we moved to, right? So we just booked an Airbnb, got into a flight, and came here. I remember some of our friends in Cameroon, they were just so curious, like, how are you going to a place? You don't have friends there, you don't have family members. Who is going to welcome you when you come into the country? All those sort of questions. And we're like, yeah, thankfully there is tech and we can book, an Airbnb from where we are. So moving here, the accommodation, you already know now, you're already in UK, you know how accommodation is. But thankfully for us, we didn't even do a lot of house viewings and all of that before we got an apartment. In fact, this apartment is like the first house I viewed, right? So we viewed it. In fact, when came here to view it, we met the landlord himself, and the landlord just said, "Come back tomorrow and see my wife because we're in this business together." We came the next day, and so the extra we spent about 3 weeks in an Airbnb, but the bulk of the time we spent there was just the time spent in doing the documentation for the apartment we got. Everything it has to follow this streamlined process, which is also something we had to adjust to. Things don't move fast because you want it to move fast. Nobody cares that you're paying a lot of money in Airbnb. If it's in my country now, I can tell the landlord, let me at least park in while you do the stuff. But this one, so there's that system change. There was the house hunting phase. While it wasn't so difficult for us because I was already working, but it was still a new experience. In fact, there was also this moment of me feeling overwhelmed, like when we couldn't get a guarantor for the apartment and we had to like pay a lot of money for several months of rent. You understand, just to ensure that we move into the apartment. So it's been challenging, and it's not like the challenges were unexpected for me because I always knew that moving into a new country, no matter the route, whether it's student or it's through global talent, is still challenging because you're moving into a new terrain. But yeah, it's something that we've adjusted well to. We've not fully adjusted. Someone told me we would have to stay at least 2 years. We fully adjust this place. But yeah, it's been great. And then when it comes to my career as well, I was already working in Cameroon. I started working with Consensus back in Cameroon. So I was just about 2 months into the company before we moved. So it's just I continued working with them, mostly at least with better internet. And mind me. I used to face a lot of internet challenges. If it were in Cameroon, maybe this call would have been as smooth as it is. So my internet used to have, there are some weeks you get into and it's like the internet just wants to work, against you, like a weapon fashioned against you. But yeah, great regarding that. My company also has an office in London, which I haven't visited, but at least if I do want to visit, there's also that proximity. There is also the aspect of continuing to give back to the community because after I had my baby, I stopped volunteering for a couple of organizations I used to volunteer with. But coming here, I resumed some of my community work with Women in Tech UK, which has been going great. So I started working with them like 5 months ago, literally at the same time we moved. There are also some parts that haven't been like as smooth. Like when we were in Cameroon, my baby had a crutch. Here, the education system is quite different. He has to wait until a certain age to start school. And then, of course, if he wants to go to nursery now, the childcare is also like not the same as it was. I know how much we used to pay for his crutch when we were in Cameroon, but now it's not the same. So all of those things are things to adjust to. But at the same time, I see the bigger picture here, right? Life is more than just childcare. So I see the bigger picture. I see us having more prospects, especially when it comes to our career. I also like the system that works really. Cameroon was good in a lot of ways. Like Cameroon is they tried really. There are a lot of things that are working there, but things work more here. And I just feel like as young people, if we can, it's just good to experience different countries, right? Experience better because life can always be better, right? No matter what we had in Cameroon, I feel like this place is much better in a lot of ways. And it's great that we are having to experience it as well. So that maybe in future I might want to maybe do something of my own in Nigeria. I can compare. I can compare and say, okay, this is what was obtainable in Cameroon, this is what was obtainable in UK. Maybe this is also what was obtainable in whatever other country I choose to maybe visit. They say travel is like the best way to get certain kinds of education. So yeah, so that's basically it. We are learning a lot. And thankfully, coming here without friends or family, it's no longer the same. While I won't say we now have family, we don't still have any family member here, but we've made a lot of friends, both Nigerian friends, British friends. We have a great church, very loving and warm, kind church. Like they've been so good to us. So it's starting to feel like home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, really amazing. Amazing. I mean, thanks for walking us through your personal and professional journey since you came and comparing what it was like before coming here. I mean, one thing that I picked out from what you said is like you carried on with your career, you were working
Yeah.
and you're able to just transition and carry on working with them. So it didn't have like an impact of you trying to get a new job. There was that continuity, and yeah, that's really amazing. So what would you, I mean, let's say for someone who, the typical software engineer or just someone starting out their career, what would you advise in terms of how do you find these community manager opportunities or volunteering opportunities? Can you maybe share some insights?
Okay. Is it for volunteering opportunities or for both? Like both volunteering and like full-time jobs, right?
Yeah, volunteering, full-time job. Yeah, you can.
Okay, so for the volunteering, LinkedIn is my tool for both volunteering, full-time jobs, LinkedIn. Yeah, I've gotten most of my jobs in LinkedIn. Keep an eye out for the kind of opportunities you want. Set up job alerts for the volunteering job role that I currently have. I also found it on LinkedIn because I knew that when I come to the UK, as someone who works from home, I know that I would need to somehow find a way to immerse myself into the community. And one of the ways to immerse yourself into a community is to serve. I've learned that service is one good way, like to immerse yourself into a community. So I just went on LinkedIn, started like searching for volunteering roles in tech mostly because not just any volunteering role. So when the opportunity came, I saw it, I applied, spoke with him, and yeah, and I joined them. So number one is LinkedIn. There are also a couple of other platforms you can use, but for me, what have worked very well for me in my career has been LinkedIn. There are so many jobs on LinkedIn. Even the jobs you find in other job websites, if you come on LinkedIn, they're already there.
Okay, so it's not rocket science.
No.
LinkedIn,
LinkedIn is my tool, really.
yeah, amazing. And I mean, some people do say things like volunteering takes time. I just want to focus on my job, or I don't want to spend time working without pay. What do you have to say to such persons?
Yeah, I mean, our goals and aspirations differ really. For someone who doesn't have any interest in maybe applying to certain kinds of opportunities, you can just do your 9 to 5 and rest. But if you know that you are looking at getting into certain global platforms in the future, right? You can't focus on doing just the things that give you money. There are people that do that. They just do things that give them money. But there are certain places you'll get to and you realize that volunteering, or even if it's not just volunteering, like doing other things, maybe writing articles or just mentoring people for free, or like, yeah, can actually place you faster in those opportunities. I don't see volunteering as something that is slow. And of course, when you're volunteering, initially you don't volunteer with the mindset that you want to use it for something, because that's also where it becomes cumbersome. If you're volunteering, it should be that you want to give back to the community. So for instance, when I was in Nigeria and Cameroon, I was volunteering for Shikud Africa. So coming here, transitioning to working with women in tech is still born out of the same desire to contribute to a community that helps women, right? Now, this volunteering role I have now, I really don't have any ulterior motive towards it. I don't even know, and I don't care what is going to give me in the future. That is not why I'm here, right? Because it's when you have a target towards your volunteering effort that it becomes like a waste of time. So there is no target in mind. Just volunteer. You volunteer. Maybe one day you will leave the volunteering job and there is nothing. The peace and happiness and satisfaction should come from the fact that you, through what you did for this organization, you were able to impact a number of people, right? Maybe in the future, you might eventually need a recommendation letter and they give you, or maybe they don't. Like, just volunteer and go, right? That's just the thing. one day you may need that volunteering experience, or maybe you don't, but it should come from an inborn desire to an inner desire to contribute and give back to the community, to make the world a better place, and to know that the world is much more bigger than just you and your family satisfaction. It's not just me, myself, and I. Now I have my skills, now I have my money, now I have my job. The world can just move on. I don't care what is going on with, I don't care if another person comes into tech as a result. I know that as a result of me applying to Global Talent Visa and being vocal with my application journey, there are so many people who had thought that they didn't stand the chance that are currently reaching out and telling me that because they saw that I did it and they also saw the article I shared, that they are going to give it a shot. That was the point of the article. I didn't write the article because nobody paid me for it. I wasn't writing the article because, I don't like, this is just something I'm used to. I learned this thing. I know this stuff. I'm going to share about it. Who knows? Someone out there might find this the inspiration they need to give it a try. That's enough reward for me. Now, if tomorrow Tech Nation now calls me and say, I saw your article, we want to make you blah 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 blah. Praise the Lord, but it's not the point. You get? So it's you just have that desire to give back to society, to make lives better simply because you exist. It's not just about you. Life is not just about you.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I like that. I mean, some people, just like in my case as well, when I was volunteering, I didn't even know that I can go back and get letters when
Exactly.
I started applying, but I was doing those things. So it with just the mindset to make an impact, right? And
Yeah.
when the application came on board, that's when I thought, oh, so I can even go back and get this letter.
Just the same with me. That was why, like, when I told you, when we got the visa and told some of our friends, they thought we had been planning it for years and all of that. And I don't know, I cannot continue explaining. We literally started thinking about global. In fact, I opened that technician documentation for the first time January this year, right? And we got endorsed in April. So the space between February, March was for gathering my documents. But because it was just as simple as me looking back, I didn't have to start to do anything. I didn't have to start to, to make an appearance, like to start showing now. No, I just looked back and gathered the evidences of the things I've done over the past 5 years and applied.
Mm.
Yes, so that's why, like, just do, just make impact at the end of the day. Maybe one day it pays off in some way, but even if it doesn't, because the mindset that you used to make that impact was just because you want to give back, it was not for any, selfish reasons, you'll be fine.
So
Wow.
is there anything looking back that you wish you had known or have done differently in your application
Mhm.
process?
Honestly, I don't think there is any. I think I would have had something I would have wanted to do this differently if I got rejected first time, but since I did the application and it went smoothly, there is no regrets. I feel like things worked out the way they should. Yeah.
Amazing. Just to clarify your timeline, so you heard about, or you opened the documents, like you said, in January, but you heard about the Global Talent Visa way.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people, social media, there are so many announcements. I'm excited to announce that I've been endorsed as a global talent in digital technology. I'll just say congratulations and keep it moving.
Hmm.
So at least I've seen that people are getting indoors, but I've never, opened the gov.uk, all those stuff to check, okay, what is this thing about? Yeah, but I just knew that people are moving to the UK with that, but I didn't know like what it entails, whether there were documents they had to submit, all of those things, no, until January this year.
January, and then April, you got endorsed. And when did
So,
you
I yeah, so the timeline was basically we started a research, reading through the documentation in January. I read it so many times. And then February, we started gathering the evidences, February, March. So by mid-March, I was already done with the evidences, but of course, I told you that my one of my recommendations was delaying. So we had to wait on that till April. So I think we made the application sometime in, was it April 14th or thereabout? But I know that we got endorsed around April 26th, which was 2 weeks after we made the application. And then in May, we got our visa and we moved in July.
Wow,
Yes.
amazing. Amazing. So, what advice would you have for professionals, let's say someone that is starting to prepare for this visa application, what steps should they take now to start preparing?
Yeah, so the answer will be two-phased because you don't prepare for war on the day of battle, right? So if you are not qualified, like you've looked at things critically, not from an imposter syndrome point of view, we nobody knows you better than you know yourself. When you look at the things you've done, at least even if you have imposter syndrome, there should be a part of you that knows if you're too far away from what the typical requirement should look like. And even if you feel like you're not sure, you can consult an expert, let them check your profile for you. So if you check and realize that actually you don't have what it takes, at least to a great percentage, it's not something to give up on. You have just continue working on your evidences, continue working on the things that you have to do. Of course, for global talent, they say most of your evidences should be at least 1 year old. So you have to give yourself time to work on those things, right? But then if you're just facing imposter syndrome, somehow your mind is telling you that you may stand a little chance, but you just feel because imposter syndrome is real for that application. I have spoken with a number of people who I even thought that they are in the UK as global talents, right? But they are not, and they are scared of applying. So don't write yourself off without even trying. You don't just look at the Tech Nation documentation. I know that page can be very overwhelming. You don't just look at it once and think, this is not for me. Without even trying, at least trying to gather some evidences, at least get to a point when you gather evidences and get to a point where you now have conviction that no, what you have is not enough or you consult an expert and they tell you what you have is not enough, then you can start working on it. But there might be a possibility that you're just not confident in yourself enough. Maybe you do have enough evidences, but you've not even tried. So my advice to everyone, basically, any tech person, is don't write yourself off yet. Don't just glance at the documentation and think this is not for me, right? That will be you shooting yourself in the leg, disqualifying yourself when technician has not even said so. So start with rereading. Reread that documentation. The more time you read it, the more clearer it becomes. And then when you're done reading it, start gathering your evidences. Where you will gather your evidences up to the point where you will start seeing that you do stand a chance. Because that's what happened to me. When I stepped in, when I looked at that documentation, my goodness, I was like, no, no, what is this? This is too overwhelming. Then I read it and read it and read it, and I started gathering my evidences. The more those evidences came together, in fact, I was not the one that, in fact, I think I endorsed myself before the endorsement came. But of course, you cannot be overconfident in this kind of things, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
I knew that. I knew that if these people reject this my application,
You need to investigate what happened.
yeah, I was going to appeal it, right? Because I feel like I do have yeah, but one cannot be too sure because I also saw some rejected applications and some of them the reasons for their rejection, I don't know, some of them like they were not just so clear, like things you would even overlook if I were the one going through it. So I don't know what they are looking for, but then don't write yourself off without even trying. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Is there any other thing you want to share with our audience, that we've not covered in the questions?
Yeah, I would say go read the article I wrote. I hope you'd add it to the description of this video because there you would see literally everything that I shared, including like what the global talent visa is, the types, that's exceptional talent, exceptional promise, the difference between the two, benefits of applying. You would also see in more vivid ways the documents I actually used for my application across the mandatory and the optional criteria. Then another thing that I would also like to advise, is a general advice, not just for people who are applying for global talent, is to try your best to develop that mindset of giving back. It doesn't have to be for global talent because if you do start giving back because you just want to apply for something, when you get what you're looking for, then your contribution to the community diminishes because now you're a global talent, you don't need this stuff anymore. So have that mindset because we are a community and the community is not going to grow if it's all man for yourself. I'm in tech today because someone did something. Maybe it could be an event I attended that someone spoke and I felt like this is the time I'm going to take charge. Imagine if that person did not speak at that event. So in any way you can, whatever skill set you have, if you're skilled in writing, then write technical articles. If you're skilled in speaking, apply and speak at events. If you're good with coding, contribute to open source projects. Like whatever your skill set is, there is always something you can do for the community, for the tech community. Yes.
Amazing. I always say global talent is a journey, not a destination, because even as a global talent, I mean, it's those things that you were doing anyway without
Mm,
even thinking that there was a visa at the other end
mm.
that you just carry on doing. Because, like you said, open source, volunteering, these are things that one way or the other we benefited from the tech community.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. So we're going to link the article, and I'm sure you can also reach out to Amarachi through that article. Is there any other way you like people to contact you or keep in touch?
Yeah, I am Amarachi Johnson on Twitter, and LinkedIn is also Amarachi Johnson, but it's spelled in a very different way. So if you can also add the link to, to the description, that would be great. Yeah, it's spelled AMX. Instead of A, there is an X in one of the A's. So I usually like to give the link instead of just saying Amarachi Johnson, because you won't see Amarachi Johnson on Twitter.
All right, amazing. Okay, we would put all that link to connect with you. Well, thank you so, so much, Amarachi. I really enjoyed it and I was really inspired. I learned so much as well. I mean, these are things that even for myself, it inspires me to keep on pushing and seeing that there are other people doing amazing work in tech, in their career, in the community. So thank you so much. So key point is give back, keep
Give
giving
back.
back.
That's the word.
Yes.
Givers never lack.
That's never lack, exactly. All right. So,
Thank you so much for for having me as well. I won't stop the message of give back, because I know like we're almost rounding off, but I also remember that one of the people that recommended me was the founder of one of the non-profit I used to volunteer at. When I called him, initially I planned that when it's time for me to apply, I was going to, write a formal hello, please can you send me a recommendation. But when I was speaking with him on the phone, he wanted to share an update with me. And I told him that I think I'm going to apply for global talent. And he said, yes, please apply. I am going to recommend you. Just let me know what of
hmm,
it. I didn't have to send the polite email I was supposed to send. He offered, because I had already, have been working with him for a long while, and it just flowed seamlessly. So just
wow.
give back. You don't know, just give back out of the passion for it. And whatever else comes afterwards, you won't be feeling like you just ripped people off, just like that. It will always come freely because you have already given back. Yeah.
You will be feeling like people have to lie to.
Yeah, exactly. Won't have to lie for you.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
You
it.
as well. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much, Miracle and Marilyn.